If you're just starting out in the software development or testing field, you may have heard the term version control system being thrown around. But what exactly does this mean? Simply put, a version control system is a way for developers and testers to track the code that's being put inside of their project. Think of it like a detailed history book of your project, allowing you to go back to previous versions of your code, track who made which changes, and collaborate with others more effectively. Today, we're going to break down into more detail what is a version control system, what are the most popular types, why is it even needed, and the basic terminology with version control systems. Let's get started. If you're new here, my name is the Test Lead, and I make content to help you on your software testing and development journey. Today's topic is breaking down what is a version control system. Let's dive in. As I mentioned before, a version control system is a way to track and manage different changes that people on your team are making to your code repository. Version control is the practice of tracking changes made to files and storing these versions so you can retrieve them later on. If you're the only person on your project and pushing code to your repository, it's not that helpful. But if you have several team members who are also working on the project at the same time, that's where the real benefit of version control systems comes in. Because I may push my code today, and then Jack pushes his code, and then a day after, we find a problem in our repository. Now we can look back at what changes Jack made and I made to help find the root of that problem. And piggybacking on that, let's talk about why do we even need a version control system. As you work on your project, you'll inevitably make changes to your code. Version control keeps track of these changes, so you know exactly what was changed, when, and why. Collaboration. If you're working with a team, version control makes it easier to collaborate. Backup. If something goes wrong, like accidentally deleting important code or introducing a new problem or bug, you can use version control to roll back to a previous version of your project. Experimentation. Want to try something new without affecting your current project? With version control, you can create branches, which are separate versions of your project to experiment with. If things go well, you'll merge it to your regular project. But if it doesn't, you just leave that branch by itself and eventually delete it, keeping your original project safe. Now let's talk about the two main types of version control, local and distributed. In a local version control system, you keep track of your changes to files on your computer. Every time you make a change, it saves a version of your file locally. However, this type of control isn't great for collaboration because it only keeps track of changes on one computer. And then we have the more popular version, the distributed version. Each developer has their own copy of their entire project repository. This means everyone has a complete history of their project on their machine. Some of the most popular distributed version control systems are Git and Bazaar. Honestly speaking, the most widely used and common one is Git. So if you're learning about it, focus on that one. Now, let's break down some popular terminology you must learn with version control. Repository, or short, repo. This is where all the project files are stored, including the history of every change made to the project. Commit. A commit is a snapshot of your changes. Every time you save a version of your code, you create a commit. A commit includes a message explaining what changes were made. Branch. A branch is a copy of your project where you can work on changes without affecting the main project. You can later merge the branch back into the main project if the changes are successful. Merge. Merging is the process of combining changes from one branch into another. This is useful when you finish experimenting in a branch and want to add your changes to the main project. Clone. We make a copy of the repository from a remote server. To your local machine, you clone it. Push. When you push, you upload your changes to a remote repository so other people can see and access them. Pull. When you pull, you download the latest changes made by others from a remote repository to your local machine. Quick break. If you're enjoying the video so far, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you need help on your software testing and development journey, check out my website, thetestinglead.com. I have books, courses, and a blog to help you on your journey. Now, back to the video. So we've mentioned what is a version control system and some vocab for this. Now let's break down how version control systems actually work so you can visualize it when talking about it. First off, you start by creating a repository. This repository will store all the files for your project. So let's say you clone or get a copy of your project. You then add some new files or make changes to existing files locally on your computer. Once your changes are tested and successful, you would then push these changes back to the master repository. Now, the collaboration part. Your new changes are in the repository. So let's say your friend also has a copy of it. They can pull down the latest changes you just made. And last but not least, rolling back or reverting to a previous version. Let's say when our partner on our team gets our copy of the latest code, they notice, hey, test lead, you made a problem here. I can see, okay, my last push had that problem, so I can revert our code repository back into a time before that new change existed. And that's the basic flow of how version control systems actually work. Now for some popular version control tools. I mentioned it briefly before, but Git. Git is the most popular version control system. It's fast, flexible, and supports branching and merging, making it ideal for both individual and team-based projects. GitHub. GitHub is a web-based platform that hosts Git repositories. It allows you to easily share code with others, collaborate with a team, and contribute to open source projects. Bitbucket. Bitbucket is another platform that supports Git repositories. It's commonly used in enterprise environments. After listening to everything in this video, you start to get a basic idea of how important version control systems are. And if you're working as part of any team, it's important that you understand this concept. If you enjoyed this video, you probably should watch this video here or this one next. And most importantly, don't forget this, learn something new today.